Hey everyone, welcome in. Welcome in everyone. Happy July. I hope folks are having a good July. Apologies, I'm off camera. I actually just got home from work, so I'll be heading in a second, but wanted to welcome everyone. So yeah, happy July.
Happy July.
Because you got to go first,
Michael, you can go ahead and get it started.
Okay, for sure. Thanks, Awesome. Yeah, welcome in everyone. Like I was saying, I just got back home, so I will actually come on camera in a second, but wanted to welcome everybody to the July meeting. The 2024 year is almost halfway over, and we're gonna have some exciting updates, I think, and things to talk about today. So welcome. I think we can go to the next slide. And yeah, so today we're really focused on thinking about built environment and land use. We're going to have some really exciting presentations from the city of Oakland to kind of talk about what they're doing and how that kind of coincides.
We missed the interpretation slide, I think. Yes, we did.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Okay, so yeah, I'll actually, apologies, there isn't a slide for it, but I'll actually pass it to the interpreters to give interpretation instructions. Thanks, Mossam.
Thank you.
Good evening. This meeting will be using the Zoom feature. Once this announcement concludes, the interpretation function can be activated if you're using a computer, a laptop, or a cell phone. Once this announcement is made, you'll locate the world icon at the bottom of the screen, and you will choose Spanish. Estaremos usando la función de interpretación de Zoom una vez que finaliza este anuncio. Se activará la función de interpretación. Si está usando una computadora portátil, usted va a ubicar el icono del mundo para usar la interpretación. Si está usando una tableta, celular o teléfono, ubica los 3 puntos en el inferior de la pantalla y escoge interpretación y español. You can activate the functions now.
Thank you. And thank you for the updates to the slide as well. I think we can go to the next slide. So yeah, like I was saying, our meeting objectives, kind of talking a little bit more about what the city of Oakland has going on and how that relates to the AB 617 work we're doing here. And then we're also going to have a big vote coming up around the SERP timeline extension. I think we'll definitely talk a little bit more there, but we want to make sure we get some nice strategies before our time is up. So yeah, I think we can go to the next slide. So yeah, this is the agenda. We're kind of coming in right now for the next couple of minutes. As always, we'll always do a quick little brief recap of the past meeting just so we can refresh ourselves. Then we're going to have a strategy brainstorm of kind of focused around built environment and land use. We will have a break and we are going to try to stick to it. And then, like I mentioned, we're going to be voting on the timeline extension. We'll talk more and we will talk about kind of like where we are now versus where we're hoping to be. Then we're going to have a few CSC members share out their experience on the Oakland airport tour that we took a couple of weeks ago. And then we're going to have some final responses around Argent materials and a few questions CSC members have. And then we'll close out and talk about some next steps. Yeah, so just some meeting agreements for this meeting. As always, since we're on Zoom and we're hybrid, one mic and one voice. So if you're on Zoom or in person, have grace for yourself and others. Of course, take care of yourself. So breathe, stretch, bio breaks, all that good stuff. Mutual respect for everyone. I would say allow everyone to participate. So try to keep speaking time to around 2 minutes or less. But of course, if you have something really passionate about to say, then that's okay. But we want to hear from, different folks also. So we're going to be popcorning. So be prepared to give your thoughts, even if you're unsure about something or something's like a little new to you. We definitely want to hear everything because it's all great information and everybody knows their community the best. And if there's any questions, CBE and Backman staff will respond in the chat. For that. So yeah, I love that people are already, introducing themselves. So y'all are ahead of us, but yeah, for the community building stuff, like this slide says, virtual attendees, definitely put your name, pronouns, and any org you're with, in the chat. If you're in person, I hope that you talked to people and said hi and got food together and are in community with each other. So yeah, this is a community space, of course, so we want to make sure we're getting to know each other as well. So please put it in the chat. Yeah, and now I'm going to pass it to Carly to kind of talk about our June meeting.
Great. Yes, it's good. Okay, yeah. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Carly.
Welcome to July CSC number 21 meeting. Just gonna go over a quick recap of what we did last month in CSC number 20. Oh, and I'm Carly Cabral. I work with CBE as the East Oakland Clean Air Project Coordinator, focused on AB 617. So some objectives of June's meeting from the Commercial Industrial Sources Presentation Activity. Stephen Reed from the Air District's Division of Assessment, Inventory, and Modeling gave a quick presentation on the Permitted Emissions Inventory Report document that we handed out in person and virtually a few meetings ago to briefly go over categories of pollutants used to measure impacts on human health for the East Oakland Emissions Inventory, a breakdown of East Oakland's top permitted polluters and where they're located. Community members received an understanding of what Communities for a Better Environment is currently doing to address pollution coming from commercial and industrial sources. We also learned how powerful community organizing is and how it can make an impact on polluting sources like ABNI, and also make an impact on public agencies like the Air District. Community members were also a part of a permitted sources scavenger hunt breakout activity, which was the first activity. We focused on 4 of East Oakland's top permitted polluters, those being East Bay Crematory and Evergreen Cemetery. They both have cremation services, Cultured Marble Products, and Davis Street Transfer Station. For this breakout activity, members were to use the resource appendix, which included the Permitted Emissions Inventory Report document and examples from other community emission reduction plans to answer questions in the scavenger hunt document. And go to the next slide, please. Yeah, and then the objectives of, thank you. The objectives of June CSC number 20 strategy brainstorm on commercial and industrial sources was to further brainstorming and this specific community concern of heavy industrial crematories and other toxic sources, commercial auto body and smaller businesses, and then dust and other particulate matter sources. Thank you. I'll pass it over.
Hello, everyone. I'm Diana Perez, she, her pronouns. I am a planner at the Air District, and tonight we will focus on strategy development for the built environment in land use focus area. To support this activity, Kalila Haynes from the City of Oakland will give us a brief presentation on the city's newly adopted environmental justice element in the ongoing general plan update. I will now pass it to Kalila.
Thank you, Diana. We can go to the next slide. Thanks. Okay, so just so we're all on the same page, okay, I'm Kalila Haynes, Planner 3, Strategic Planning, working on the general plan update. So I'm just gonna go over a few slides to help prep for our activity. So I just want to go over some key terms so we're all on the same page. So we can think of the built environment as everything that we create around us that make up the places where we live, work, and play. Think your roads, bridges, houses, buildings, infrastructure, playgrounds, etc. Land use describes how people use land for different activities: industrial, residential, agricultural, commercial, etc. Cities and counties regulate land use through zoning, and the built environment has a pretty significant impact on our health and overall well-being. Next slide. So I'm going to go over the general plan just briefly. It can be thought of as the city's constitution for development and conservation. It has a number of required chapters that we call elements, including land use, housing, environmental justice, and these elements establish a citywide vision with supporting goals, policies, and implementation measures. We adopted our first EJ element in September of last year. Next slide. So we're doing our general plan update right now in 2 phases. Phase 1 was completed last fall. And in phase 2, which is going to kick off this summer, we'll be focusing on key elements such as land use and transportation, open space, conservation, recreation, capital facilities and infrastructure, and noise. And the general plan update is a really big opportunity to include Oakland communities in planning and decision-making around land use and built environmental issues. And so this is kind of why we're bringing it to this group. Next slide. So really quick, I just want to highlight before I dive into the element that the EJ element, which we adopted in phase 1, carries over to phase 2, and we'll be working on some key implementation measures ranging from addressing residential industrial conflicts in East and West Oakland to exploring modifications to truck routes and truck management in partnership with the port and key groups such as WOP and CBE. And so part of the work that we'll be doing in strategy development and part of the opportunity that still exists is for us as this, CSC to basically weigh in on how the EJ element gets implemented and weigh in on how we take the East Oakland specific issues as part of this larger citywide process. Next slide. So key to developing the EJ element was creating the EJ communities map. And so this identifies about 47 EJ communities so far. We just overlaid the East Oakland SERP community boundary onto this map, so that number will increase a bit. And I'll get you guys a final count when it's finalized. But basically, we took a number of indicators such as asthma emergency room visits, redlining, park access, urban heat island effect to basically understand how environmental burdens affect Oakland's communities. And you can see on this map, the areas that are darkest blue are the areas that are most environmentally burdened, and the areas that are yellow or at least so. You can see it's very much concentrated in East Oakland and West Oakland. Next slide, please. So basically the EJ element, the purpose of it is to develop goals, policies, and actions that reduce environmental burdens in Oakland's most vulnerable communities. It has these focus areas that you can see in this graphic here, from civic engagement, reducing pollution, public facilities, physical activity, healthy food access, safe and sanitary homes, and specific programs that are specific to the EJ communities in our city. Next slide. So there are 10 goals in the EJ element. I've highlighted the ones that are most relevant to the work of this group. So the first is reducing pollution and mitigating the impacts on sensitive land uses and eliminating public health disparities. The next one is coordinating resources to improve housing quality and habitability. Next slide, please. Next is creating environments that support physical activity, recreation, and healthy lifestyles through access to green spaces and walkable, bikeable neighborhoods. And the other is expanding economic development opportunities for all Oaklanders. And so, yeah, so I'll turn it over to Deanna here, but basically in our next strategy, we want to think about how some of these major or some of these more general citywide policies that are in the EJ element, how we can dive into them with the specifics for East Oakland and make sure during implementation that we are addressing the specific, like, environmental considerations that this group is going to be bringing up. So I'll stop there. I hope that I don't know if we have time. I don't think we have time for questions, so I'll just turn it over to you, Deanna. If we do, I'll happy to take any.
Thank you, Kalila. Thanks for that great context for the activity. So over the past few meetings, we brainstormed community concerns and strategy statements across all of our 5 focus areas. And tonight's goal is to prioritize 3 community concerns related to the built environment and land use. These concerns emerged as pressing issues in the feedback you've shared with us, but we lack local knowledge on these topics, and we're seeking your guidance on desired outcomes and potential solutions. Next slide, please. If you're attending in person, your group will focus on land use and proximity of sensitive receptors like schools and community gardens to sources of pollution. Next slide, please. One virtual breakout group will discuss reducing air pollution inside the home. This is important because we know that indoor air pollution can be as high and sometimes higher than outdoor pollution levels. Next slide, please. And the second virtual group will discuss urban greening, which includes promoting parks and gardens and also green infrastructure like green roofs and vegetative barriers. Next slide. Great. So there are 3 goals for this activity. First, we want to clarify our understanding of the community concern. So the feedback and local knowledge you shared with us tonight will help us to clearly define and describe each concern. Next, we want to identify desired outcomes. So these are the end results that you want to achieve by implementing the strategies in the SERP. So we ask you to imagine that the concern is fully resolved. How would your neighborhood change? And we have about 10 minutes for these 2 questions. Next slide, please. And then finally, we will connect your desired outcomes with solutions. So we will explore potential SERP strategies and actions by discussing relevant policies from the environmental justice element. So for each policy, we will ask, which of your desired outcomes does this policy help us achieve? And what is missing from this policy that would help make a concrete difference in East Oakland? And who else do you think we should connect with on this issue? And what are other solutions that can help us achieve your desired outcomes? So we will have about 25 minutes for this part of the discussion. And next slide. So we are actually doing really great on time, and we have time for questions. If you have any questions about tonight's presentation, I think we can take about 2 or 3 questions. If you do, please raise your hand or type it in the chat. And any questions we can't address now, please bring into your breakout room. And then Air District and City of Oakland staff will be there to provide answers. And if we don't have an answer for you today, we will follow up with you soon after the meeting. Are there any questions before we break into our groups? And if not, we could just go into our breakout rooms earlier, and that will give us more time to engage in the activity and that rich discussion.
Great. Yeah, we could move to another room for the breakout activity. So,
You're gonna be in a classroom, you can follow me.
it's online, I'm gonna open one breakout.
Do we need our document?
In.
No, the documents will be there.
So if you get an invite to join.
Should we give our stuff?
Yes, join it. If you don't get an invite, please you're supposed to stay in this room and this room will act as your breakout. Would that work?
I can't work, you.
I.
No one white shirt, no one white shirt.
I'll be like,
Oh, we're in the problem, no, we'll figure out.
¿En qué cuarto me voy a quedar yo?
En este cuarto, Marina.
Está bien.
Thank you, Allison. Would you mind going to the first slide in the Jamboard? Perfect. Thank you. Okay, welcome everyone to the Healthy Housing Breakout Group. I think we're all here. So my name is Deanna. She, her pronouns. I work in the planning division of the Air District, and I'm here with my colleagues, Allison Kirk, Air Quality Planning Manager, who is taking notes for us tonight. I'm also here with Alona Davis from Strategic Incentives and Laura Caquette from Rules, and Lakshmi Rajagopalan from the City of Oakland Planning and Building Department, who are here to help answer your questions and offer insights that can help move the discussion forward. We have about 5 minutes to capture your ideas, questions, and local knowledge about air pollution inside the home. Then 5 questions for desired outcomes. And finally, about 25 minutes for matching your desired outcomes with solutions by discussing the EJ element policies. Are there any questions about the activity before I pass it to Jerry to start facilitating the next piece? Allison?
Hi all, I was supposed to share a link to this Jamboard in the chat. However, I am technology impaired, and while I'm sharing, I'm not sure how to do that. So if some other person can do that for me, I'd appreciate it. And that way everybody can get in if they like.
Allison, I just shared in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you, Lakshmi. Thanks, Allison. That's for bringing that up. All right. I don't see any questions about the activity, so I will pass it to my co-facilitator and CSC member, Jerry, to kick us off.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, I assume you can. All right, so thank you, Diana, for the introduction on this activity. I am happy to be facilitating. Just want to shout out everybody who went into the planning for this activity, and hopefully we can get some great ideas tonight. So again, we have about, I believe, 10 minutes to answer the first 2 questions, and feel free to put any ideas you may have in the chat. I believe we're going to monitor that as well. I think they can directly use the Jamboard as well. So I hope I don't have that wrong. But anyway, as I've asked for ideas, I would like to also ask that we keep our responses to maybe 30 seconds so we can get through and give everybody a chance to speak. So please and thank you for that. And let's hear from everyone. So the first, to get it started, so we want to define what our community concerns are by sharing what we know about the issue and its impact. So for example, our area is healthy housing and reducing air pollution in the homes. It could be apartment building homes, elderly, like senior homes or senior places where seniors gather, just for some ideas, but you may also have some that you might want to share. So why don't we see popcorn it to someone who want to get us started with a concern?
Okay, great.
Let's see. I'm just gonna call on people because we're all here to participate, right? What about Hannah? Because I like your name. Any concern or lived experience that you might want to share or from your local knowledge about a concern in this area?
I just want to first make sure that you can hear what I'm saying. Are you able to hear me?
I can't hear.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a little quiet.
Is this better?
Or, not really, but maybe you can put in the chat.
Hear me now?
Oh, yes, that's better.
Okay. Now I can't hear you. I'm so sorry. I'm having technical difficulties. But real quick, I wanted to introduce myself. I'm Hannah. I'm an intern with the Air District. And for the most part, I'm sitting in on this meeting just to understand the process, how things go down. So I'm really curious to see community members' inputs and understand more about these issues we're trying to resolve.
No worries. Okay. Do you know of any concern that you might want to just mention while we have you or no?
I'm so sorry. I'm not able to hear, but
Okay, no
I'll try to
worries. What about
respond in the
Alana?
chat.
Alana, do you have any? Oh, no, not Alana. You're not a community member. I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm trying to look at the names here. Anybody want to just volunteer to speak about a concern that we can put down here?
Carlos has his hand up.
Who?
Carlos?
Oh, Carlos. Okay. Hi, Carlos.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So I'm with the Alameda County Public Health Department. And one thing that we know of is that housing, and I mean like the actual, buildings and structures themselves in East Oakland tend to be older and can have negative health effects on people. You have things like mold, lead, old gas appliances inside the home. And a lot of these can, worsen air quality, and especially for people with conditions like asthma and other health conditions.
Sounds great, Carlos. Thank you. So definitely some legitimate concerns. Thank you for that. And anyone else wants to chime in? What about, I'm sorry, I'm trying to see these names here. Anybody else? Susan?
Yes. I was wondering, especially in older homes, is it at all possible to either get free or reduced cost air purifiers? That would help a great deal. Now, my daughter got me an air purifier, and I mean from day one, I stopped having the hacking cough, the runny nose, and everything else. Many people can't afford them, and if they could get free ones through a grant or something, that would help a great deal, especially being so close to Argent. Which I won't talk about because I'd be running my mouth for hours.
Thank you, Susan. Absolutely a concern. Definitely air purifiers, HVAC systems,
yes,
filtration systems would be very helpful. So thank you. I know I can just add, I don't know if anything's up there, but the housing that I'm affiliated where my location is, it often smells like cigarette smoke and marijuana smoke. And so like literally you're walking through the lobby hacking or choking, and so there's a lot of children who are running around through the halls playing, and this is concerning, right? We know that children have respiratory illness or asthma. And so, I'll just throw that one out there because that's a lived experience. Is there anyone else? I don't know what the time is like, but we might have.
Yeah.
Okay. Who's that?
Hey, this is Shamar.
Hi, Shamar.
President and a member of the stake or whatever the steering committee. I think I got two things that come really front of mind. I think I hear a lot from the county and public health officials about stuff like smoking and, gas stoves and stuff like that, which really just feels like a red herring at best and at worst, straight up gaslighting. this idea that, I love my gas stove. I might spend 10, 20 minutes a day, a couple times a week using it. And the idea that that has anywhere near the impact of me living in an industrially zoned residential neighborhood, blocks away from a 24/7 truck depot, less than a mile away from, the busiest freeway in the region. Like the idea that my air is really, the reason I have asthma, the reason that my COPD gets exacerbated is because, I fry an egg or something like that, not because of these systematic pollutants that are not just me, but everyone in my community, and not just indoors, but outdoors. You really can't avoid it. And it's really a systematic thing. And so the idea that, even any resource is being spent looking at something as trivial as, indoor pollutants that people might cause themselves. Again, I don't know how much of a smoking habit you need to actually have to get to the point where that's more harmful than the 24/7, just what you're getting just from breathing the regular ambient air as a result of failed regulation and failed policy. And yeah, I would also say that, to Susan's point, it's a known fact. Our homes are old construction. We don't have central air. We don't have, central filtration systems. Something as simple for, middle class folks with means, folks who are able to access any of these grant programs, and you can get a free or reduced price air purifier. That's an obvious solution for your indoor air quality. Again, whether or not you're being blamed for your fireplace or your smoking addiction or your gas stove, just for what you can't help every time you open a window or a door.
Yes.
Those things, again, why isn't that something that is universally available in neighborhoods that we know, again, as a result of failed policy, failed regulation, are just going to continue to be disproportionately impacted by this stuff, right? That other communities aren't. So,
thank you, Shamar.
Blamed. I don't like people coming after my gas stove if you're not going to come after the truck depot that's on my same block. Like, why is that allowed to operate unimpeded while I can't even enjoy a nice fried egg quickly and not have to deal with the BS of an electric stove? So that's all I have to say. Which also, we talk about electricity. We're just outsourcing our pollution to some other community in most cases. So that's not a solution really in my mind, because I'm not just thinking about me. It's really about everybody. It's about the people who are outside or unhoused, have to breathe in the same air. There's no escaping it, except for having a functioning air quality management district that frankly does their job. So that's all I got to say on that.
Thank you, Shamar. Appreciate that feedback back. So for the sake of time, does anyone else want to add to these, or we can go to the next question if we haven't.
Jerry, we have time for about one more comment on this, and then we can move on to desired outcomes.
Okay, good. I have a hand up for Marina. Hi, Marina.
Hola, Marina.
Go ahead.
Hola, aquí estamos.
Hi, I'm here. And yes, I wanted to comment. I've got allergies, okay? And I take medication every day because it's something that I am, that you can't put up with, because you've got to be able to breathe. We talk about our housing, our homes, but I know that homes that are really old and the owners do not do anything to change the paint, which may contain lead, nor the windows, nothing. They don't make any changes to their homes. So all of that pollution, then bathrooms are full of mold or in the rooms. All of that is polluting and contaminating us. I don't know if there's a law of someone who can go inspect those homes, check out those homes, because we as tenants are not able to do anything about this, but perhaps other individuals could do something about this. So the pollution is right within our homes. That is a fact. And as long as those homes are not being inspected, we're always going to have that pollution contaminating us right within our houses. And there's more contamination within the house versus outdoors. I live in a place where it's really concentrated. Everything, all the pollution is fully concentrated. I don't escape any of this, whether I'm indoors or outdoors. I think it's a huge problem that we have. We need to do something about this and help us to do something about this, because often we might live in a really nice home, but then how do other people that are not middle class live? And what do their houses look like inside their homes? This has always been a question for me. So I think it's an option of inspecting those homes of those who are renting a home to see what conditions those homes are in.
So much,
Thank,
Marina.
thank you, Marina. We are going to talk about solutions, so I'm really excited to get to that piece and pass it to you, Jerry, to talk about desired outcomes.
Okay, so desired outcomes. What would we like East Oakland to actually see? Like, what is the desired outcome? Addressing these concerns. I don't know if that's helpful or if you guys need more context, but basically, like beyond like the solution, what would we like to just have East Oakland just be? You know, in regards to healthy housing, healthy air pollution, etc.
Just a quick note for Allison, that's the next slide on the Jamboard.
Oh. So we want to, I'm sorry, I'm just making sure, what would East Oakland look like? What would it sound like? What would it smell like? What would it feel like if we had, you know, our way with these, addressing these concerns? So maybe somebody who haven't spoken, please. Let's see. I don't know some of these names. Lashimi.
Hi, Lakshmi Rajgopalan. I'm with the city of Oakland, so yeah, I'm just here to observe and answer any questions related to the city.
Okay, well, I'm trying to see who's in this group. DJ? No. Can anyone please maybe share what you think, what East Oakland should look like? Cynthia? I'm just calling on names at this point.
Can I go? I'm Susan.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I would love for East Oakland in well, I always call it the bottom of the barrel, to be like the hills. We can't afford it, but if we could get grants, something to help us, they can afford to have clean air, to say no to companies polluting the air. We can't. We have no say. And if we could all just get together, the next company, another ABNI wants to come, we could go to the city and say, no, we're not having it. We've got enough. And they have to listen to us rather than taking the taxes of the new company and so on.
Yes.
I don't know if it's possible, though. They're so damn greedy. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for that insight. You know, I would also say when you know, thinking about what I would like East Oakland to look like and smell like. So, you know, I would like when we walk into any building, you know, that has like a lobby, especially where children are, to be able to smell fresh air, you know, or have a nice HVAC system that you know, is filtering the air. So that's just an example of what I would like to see. I always hope for that when I walk through the building where I am. I'm like, okay, am I gonna hold my breath today? Most of the time I'm holding my breath. But you know, but that's what I would like it to look like when I walk into a lobby of an apartment complex, especially where there are kids. So Anyone else want to share what they imagine East Oakland to look like, smell like, feel like?
Have Marina and Cynthia both have their
Oh,
hand up?
I'm sorry, I see. Marina, I believe Marina was first, and Cynthia will get right to you.
Primero.
Sí, yo quiero opinar. Ujú.
Yes, I have an opinion. I want to opine.
¿Hablo? Ajá.
Mar-
Sí. Para
Yes.
mí, tener
For
me
me,
to
una
have
ciudad limpia,
I
a
would
clean
love a
city,
lo que
clean
right?
queremos es un
city,
cambio,
right?
¿verdad?
What
Porque
we
estamos
want
We
is a
contaminados
want
con
a
change
change
muchas
because
cosas.
we're
because
so
we're
contaminated
contaminated
with
with a
so
lot of
many
things,
things
right?
Nos está dañando.
That's
that
hurting us.
is obviously
En
hurting
primer
us.
lugar,
In the
So
first place, we
first,
need
we need
resources.
nos dé recursos la ciudad de
We need
resources.
to receive
¿verdad?
We need
resources from
resources from the
Oakland.
city of
The
Impuestos, y
city,
Oakland
queremos
because
we
we
pay
are
vivir como los que
taxpayers
taxes,
viven allá en la
and
loma,
we
and we
want
want
to
to live
be
like
able
the
to
people that
live
live in
like those up
Oakland
on the
hills.
hills
que somos
live,
de
But
bajos
us,
ingresos,
but
no
we
the
are
podemos
low
low
income.
tener ni
income,
siquiera
we
una
can't
We're
casita
not
even
able
get
pequeña,
a
to
¿verdad?
small home,
obtain
right?
Ojalá nos
a
ayudara
tiny
la
little
ciudad
That would be
house.
nice if the
I
city
algo
would
wish
para
help us
the
tener
with
sus
city would
something
propios
help us with
hogares.
so we
something
could
so
have
that we
our
would
own
own our
place to
own
be able
home.
to
We would
buy
be
our
able
own
to
Hacerlo
buy our
home
own home.
verde,
and
hacerlo algo
make it
And so
bonito,
that it would
¿verdad?
be
green,
green and it
beautiful,
would be
Mucho
right?
something
dinero para
To
pretty.
have a
limpiar
lot
esas
of
Have a
money
lot
calles
of
to
que hay
money
clean
to
those
clean those
streets
streets up
toneladas
that
de basura,
there's
where
¿verdad?
there's
tons of
so much
garbage
garbage.
everywhere.
Los
There are
And
estudios
tons of
also
que
garbage.
necesitamos,
And
create
to
the
¿verdad? Para
conduct some
studies
studies
respirar,
so we
¿verdad?
can
or have some
breathe,
Nuestro medio ambiente
exams
so
esté
our
limpio,
done so that our
environment can
tener
be
fábricas
environment
clean,
que no
is
to have
contaminen,
clean,
porque tenemos
that
factories
there
muchas
are
that
en nuestra
don't
companies
comunidad.
contaminate.
that
We have
do
a lot in
not
our
pollute
Ser
community.
because there are
socios
so
con
To
ellos,
many
be
hablar y si
to
ellos
be
associates
allies
with
with
them,
them, to
and
be
if
contaminamos,
they
pues
don't
partners with
cerrarles.
them,
change,
and that if
Sí,
they
porque
don't
es lo que
quit
because
debemos de hacer,
polluting,
that's
es
what
sembrar
we
muchos
should
shut them
do,
árboles,
down
¿verdad?
to
and
be able to
Hacer
plant
plant
muchos
more
parques
trees,
trees,
para que los
to have a
niños
lot
vayan
of
to
en su
have
parks
bicicleta,
so
parks
the
¿verdad?
so
children can
children
Porque
ride
can
on
go
their
aquí con esta
bike.
on their
contaminación
But
bike.
y
with that
Canadá,
But with all
contamination,
of the
you don't even want
pollution,
to
entonces
go
you don't
out.
even want to go
And
necesitamos
so
outdoors.
primero
we
tener un
need
So
plan
we
first to
need
have
a
a
que nos
plan
plan
garantice
first
cómo
that
nos va a ayudar
that
a la
guarantees
we
ciudad,
how
can
the city is going to
ensure
para
help
of
obtener
us
how is
un
the
so
cambio.
we
city
can
going
get
to
a
help us
Porque
to
si no hay
bring
change.
about that
recursos, no
Because if
change.
vamos a
there's
hacer
no
Because
nada.
if there
resources, we're
are
not
no
going to be able to do
resources,
anything.
we
Okay,
aren't able to do
Gracias.
anything.
thank you, Marina.
Thank you.
Okay, and Cynthia?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
I would say for me is just this week alone, a car was put on fire down the block from where I live, right behind Arroyo Viejo Park. And it took the city a couple days to remove the burnt vehicle. And so the fact that me and my child have to smell that is so horrific. And in that same pathway, right behind Arroyo Viejo, there are mattresses. I mean, if I could take you all there right now, I would. It's like mattresses, a couch, trash, like, and I say this almost every meeting. I can't even push my baby stroller without avoiding trash. Thankfully, there's the 311 app where I'm constantly reporting things, but it really affects morale. And I mean, I don't want to say that like if there's cameras that would like fix it. I mean, people are still dumping massive amounts of trash there. I don't know what the solution is. I just want people to like pay attention and do something about it, because I think we're now getting more people paying attention to the park, but around the park, there is no sort of clean support for that.
Yes.
Thanks so much for sharing those desired outcomes. We are going to use them in the next activity. So looking at solutions, to how can we achieve these, end results and changes that you want to see. So if we can go to the next slide.
Okay.
And thank you so much, Jerry, for facilitating our brainstorm.
You are welcome. Thank you for inviting me to.
Of course. So we now get to talk about potential solutions. So at the top of the Jamboard, you will see the 3 of the desired outcomes that you just shared. At the bottom of the Jamboard are 4 environmental justice element policies that relate to indoor air quality. So these policies have already been adopted by the city, but through the SERP, we have an opportunity to provide guidance on how to implement it in East Oakland, or what it would take for this policy to achieve that change you want to see in East Oakland. So I will start by reading these 4 policies out loud and then stop for questions. And I also want to let you know that we had to shorten the text of these policies to fit inside the sticky notes, but we have the full text available starting on slide 9 of the Jamboard if you want to read them in full. So so the first policy we have is EJ 4.5, improving indoor air quality in existing buildings for new projects and significant rehabilitations of existing buildings. And this is related to mold and mildew. The next one is EJ 8.3, working with the Air District and other partners in the region to explore the creation of a grant program for installing and maintaining air filtration devices and systems. Then we have EJ 8.18 as part of the land use and transportation element update in phase 2, which is starting this year, exploring incentives and strategies to promote health promoting features in housing projects that are built inside EJ communities. And finally, investments for inclusive, equitable growth, making intentional investments to increase and diversify economic growth and living wage jobs. Are there any questions? You know, we have Air District staff here, City of Oakland staff, who can help clarify what these policies mean. Are there any questions before we begin discussion? If not, I will, oh, sorry. Is there a question?
There it is. I got a question. I got my hand. Sorry, couldn't find my hand.
No worries.
Yeah, I think by way of introduction, it might be helpful since we have staff in the room, like if we're talking about government solutions, or if that's what we're actually proposing and not kind of a pie in the sky wish list that can actually be implemented, it might be helpful to understand those kind of outlined desires through the lens of what is actually possible through regulation and policy.
Thank you, Shamar. And I will definitely, so what we're looking for today is your guidance on how, you know, what you see would be, what you see necessary to, you know, what it would take for this policy to make a concrete difference in East Oakland. And or some of these policies by looking at like what is missing from that policy, who else besides, you know, City of Oakland do we need to connect with on this issue? And then what are other solutions that can help us achieve your outcome? So we can definitely, let's definitely tease that out as we, you know, discuss each of these policies. Like we can definitely pull in, you know, Lakshmi and other Air District staff who's here to help us figure out kind of what are those, you know, government sort of you know, what's possible within like the policy and governmental realm. And I see, so Cynthia, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, I just really want to second what Shamir is saying. I think for me, it's a little frustrating being in this group because we trauma dump on you, like what is happening in our community. And then you tell us, what do you want us to do to fix it? And we're like, we don't work in your positions, in your roles. And like, if you could better let us know all the entities that could be involved, all the politicians, like I could guess, but it doesn't mean that's correct. And it's just really frustrating. If I need to give you an answer for the sake of the answer, the fact that D6, Kevin Jenkins, has never been to this meeting, has never sat right with me. So add that person to this.
Thank you, Cynthia. I think what you're saying is very important, and I want to be able to provide, we want to be able to provide some of that information, like, specifically looking at these policies. And so if can I get a volunteer to pick a policy from this list that you would like to start with, and we can start like teasing out and asking those questions of, sort of interrogating this policy?
Can we do that one right there about the installation of air filtration devices, since that's come up already in the group? Might be fun. That one is an example, and I think it's, again, to the last point, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name. Again, like it's pretty straightforward. Seems like something that's shovel ready if there is funding and will behind it. And if there isn't, or if there isn't regulatory authority to do something like that, then like, let's talk about things that are actually possible. Because yeah, and like, why propose stuff that's not going to happen?
Shimmer, I think you're talking about working with Air District and other partners to create a grant program for installation and maintenance of air filtration devices and systems.
Yeah, that's the one. And it seems like one where, again, if the whole premise of us being in community in this process is the idea that our neighborhood is disproportionately burdened by air pollution that's not actually in our control, and that, again, regulatory frameworks, policy, and enforcement haven't actually resolved the problem of us breathing in poor quality air, that would be something that would be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So
Shamar, and sorry to interrupt you. I just want to be mindful of time. We do have Alona Davis here, who's from the Strategic Incentives Division of the Air District, and I think she can provide some insight into like what the Air District can do and is doing.
Yeah, hi everyone, Alona Davis. I'm in our Strategic Incentives Division, which is one of the divisions that provides grants at the Air District, grant programs. While I haven't myself been involved in programs that provide air filtration grants, we have, the Air District does have experience funding those types of programs. I think they've been pretty much on the small scale, but we do have experience. We do have potential funding sources that could be used for these types of programs. I think our experience is in, I know, in home filtration units, and also installation of like high filtration units in schools.
And that's great by way of introduction, but I mean, that's almost an acknowledgement that it's been insufficient, right? We're not talking about small scale solutions because this isn't a small scale problem. This is a community-wide, touches everyone who happens to live here, whether they know it or not. And so if we're talking about a proposal to have a tangible impact on health outcomes of all residents, not just the computer savvy ones who get the email, fill out the form, and follow it through to get one of those few units that may or may not be available through existing grant programs, we're talking about, really putting together a substantial program. So is that something that you all have thought about? Or are we just, again, checking boxes and going to this activity, but, proposing things that aren't actually feasible? Because we can't just pat ourselves on the back for our existing work, or we wouldn't be here, right? If the air was doing a job in communities like ours, y'all would be at home right now in dinner, right? We would be at home doing something else, breathing fresh air, but that's not a fact. So what are we doing to change it? And like,
I can suggest something, but Alona, were you gonna respond?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm giving the examples just to let you know that it is a possibility. So designing a program around what this community wants is certainly something, within the Air District's ability to do. Have we done it for East Oakland specifically? No, we have not.
And I also want to add, so this policy calls for the city of Oakland to work with the Air District to create a program, a grant program to install, and maintain air filtration devices. So something we can explore together is like, what are those buildings, those schools, those sensitive receptors in East Oakland that are located near, heavy industrial sources that should be prioritized. So when this grant program is implemented and it is made available, what are those buildings that should be prioritized in East Oakland? That's one question for the group. And I see Lakshmi has their hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to respond to, since this action is also what the city should be leading. So what we are doing is, since there are a lot of agencies that are involved, to Shamar's point, we are trying to work. We are forming an interagency working group. So we are proposing a structure in front of our Community and Economic Development Committee on July 23rd. At their meeting, where the agencies would include BACMed, the port, and other like CBE, WOP, other CBOs, and we'll all come together. The intent is, how do we all come together and implement the actions of the policies, and what are some of the structures that we need to identify and systems that we need to put in place. So that's the first step that we are taking as a city. And the second step is, as part of the EJ element adoption, and we also implemented a lot of zoning code amendments. If you recall, Kalila had mentioned the city controls land use or regulates land use through a lot of zoning code changes. So recognizing all the inequities that have happened, the city has actually implemented several zoning amendments that regulate truck routes, that regulate industrial uses. And as part of phase 2 of the general plan update, we will also be expanding our land use regulations to make sure that we are no longer allowing these kind of uses next to sensitive receptors. And yeah.
Thank you, Lakshmi. We have 5 minutes left, and I see Allison's hand is up.
I just wanted to round this out by pointing out that both Carlos and Laura have put some great examples in the chat, and the fact that we're looking at the adopted Oakland EJ element says that folks have already come together and believe that there's value in these programs and that we want to make them happen. So with that, I'll pass it back to Deanna.
Thanks. I'll put it, forth another question for this group to consider is, for a grant program such as this, what should be considered in the design of the program? So what type of criteria could be included as part of the grant program to benefit East Oakland residents? So, to make it equitable, to make it accessible. That's another, question to consider for the group. But I definitely appreciate this discussion. And I want to see if I believe we're going to be closing soon, but want to see if CSC members have any other question or comment. Okay, well, oh, I see Marina your hand is up.
Sí, sí la levanté porque, ¿verdad? Estoy oyendo que...
I did
¿Me escucha?
lift my hand. Can you hear me?
Sí.
Sí, yo estoy oyendo que,
I'm
¿verdad?
hearing that
Hay becas para los
there are
purificadores, ¿verdad?
grants for
Yo
purifiers.
también tengo,
I
¿verdad?
also
Una pregunta.
I have a question.
¿Cómo se les va a poder
How
entregar a las
will you
personas un
deliver
purificador,
the
verdad?
purifiers to
Porque yo
people?
lo que quiero es que
Because what
sea
I want
equitativo para
is
todas las
to be
personas,
it be
¿verdad? Que
equal
lo
for all the
necesiten.
persons that need it.
No sé
And I
cuánto
don't know
dinero haya en
what
nuestra beca,
money
¿verdad?
there is in those grants.
Entonces
And
eso
so
me gustaría que me
I would like to
contestaran,
know
¿verdad?
that you answer
Para
that. So
estar preparada
so
para
I can
nuestra
be
comunidad
prepared
y
for
decirles
our
cómo
community
se van
and
a
tell them
trabajar todos
how
estos
this is going to
proyectos.
work, all these projects.
Marina, I So that the program hasn't been created yet. This policy, when it's implemented, it calls for the city of Oakland to work with the Air District to design the program. And so we are looking for your feedback on, what type of criteria can be included in the program so that it is accessible and the people who need it the most can get it. And so also looking for your feedback on what buildings should be prioritized. So sensitive receptors that are close to, adjacent to polluting, sources, schools, community gardens, libraries. What are those buildings in East Oakland that should be prioritized? So I want to thank you all for your participation. I believe we can maybe explore one more policy and kind of look at what's possible there. Okay, we are back into the main. Thank you, everyone. I think we can go back to the sharing the presentation.
It looked like you had.
Good job, Andre. All of you all did a good job.
Thank you.
Facility. That's all right, that's okay.
Trying to maneuver around.
I think we have time for our report out. Awesome, are we ready for that?
Yep, we're ready.
Okay, awesome. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you all had good and healthy discussion. I would like to invite our CSC member facilitators to share out something that surprised you during the activity. Please keep your report out to 1 minute to make sure we have time for our break. So let's start with maybe in-person folks with the land use and proximity to pollution, and then we can go to urban greening and healthy housing.
Okay, so I'll give it out, our report out. Our CSC member, Andrea, she did the presentation, so we giving her a break. But we did recognize that economic development is one of the main keys to helping to improve our quality of life in these communities. We also recognize that as community members, we have to participate more in helping to get these policies enacted and be educated on the knowledge of how these things are impacting our community members, and that we want to have more studies so that we can develop more quantifiable data as to the health impacts that these different polluters are emitting. And we wanted to make sure that we identify the polluters and what kind of pollution they were emitting so that we can understand the impacts on our qualities of life. I think that's amazing.
That is amazing.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Urban greening, Carol, would you like to go next?
Hi, yeah, so we had a really great conversation. We talked about a lot of parks and greenery that are actually already in East Oakland but aren't maintained. Something that surprised me was that, and well, it surprised me, but then when I thought about it, it didn't. There are times when people are told that they can't plant trees or things can't be implemented because helicopters need to go around and see things in a high crime area, and with trees you can't see that. So we already know that the potential is out there to improve the area with lots more greenery, whether it's tree canopies, whether it's overpasses that are actually sort of green pathways that would allow people to improve their ability to get around East Oakland. But the whole idea that groups need to work together. We need to understand which groups are sort of their policies and procedures are in conflict with what we need to see happen. And also we got some pretty good ideas on, a few ideas on where funding can come from for AB 617, as well as some examples from Brian that talked to us about other entities that have done green pathways or greening areas in places like Fresno. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Carol. And we have healthy housing. Jerry, would you like to report out for the group? Or we can't hear you. Or would somebody like to step in and report out on behalf of healthy housing?
Maybe we can tell Deanna, I don't know if Deanna can see, but we're supposed to have break right now.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay. Are we going into break?
Unless somebody can give a real quick report out, but otherwise I think we should.
If not, maybe they'll have it together.
Yeah, when they come back.
Yeah, maybe when we come back.
Okay. Sounds good.
Break time.
Stop, break time.
Thank you all. I think we're going into break.
We'll reconvene at 7:15.
Oh, 7:15 we come back?
Mm-hmm.
Where the music at, Michael? Where the music at?
Oh, the music?
Descanso, ¿va?
All through HP and 120 and all that, it went crazy. Yeah, so I was. Cause I know West Oakland went up in flames too, and there was a big warehouse fire in West Oakland, like a big bad. Yeah, it was. Yeah, right before.
They might actually.
Oh, yeah.
There's a bad one. They shut down West Oakland.
That's what we need to
Yeah.
do. We need to get reports when the fires happen.
Yeah.
We need to get reports from BACMed, what that air quality looked like at that point in time.
Right.
Because that's the only way we're gonna know what the impact, the cumulative impact of those things are on a community members.
I would love to know what that 4th of July impact is.
I was thinking the same thing. Because
They would not
that
stop.
stuff,
Yeah.
they did that
My
from till 4
goodness.
o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Even my nephew, he's only 3, he said, I'm done looking at the fire.
Oh, God. They was all lined up on Fontaine Street up there by King State Junior High School till 4
I
o'clock.
seen them, I can see them like a panorama like this in the back of the house, in the front, it was just like, whoa. It was fun, but that's, yeah, and they started before the sun went down. So then you could really see the pollution. When the sun's going, you could see the pollution, it's getting dark and brown.
Just
and
hung in
gray.
the air, like it was like after a science show.
Yeah.
I really like to find out what the impact of those are.
Yeah, all that noise, cut that racket out. Hey, cut that racket out. the fireworks. The fireworks, yeah. In this area, there was a lot.
Yeah. I was gone, so I was like,
Yeah.
thankfully I'm not
Yeah.
here.
Go knocked out, see right there, like a plane ride. Ain't no way, all that noise all night, and then they still popping, they ain't stop that.
I'm not sure how we could monitor that,
right?
But I guess some people still monitor. Oh, yeah, because just like at that time, yeah.
That's what we really want to work on. So like, community members to take a hand and monitor out there on their own.
Right, yeah.
Be at a sideshow
Yeah.
and be able to,
Yeah.
and, record that down.
Some people don't even think about pollution and fireworks. Thinking they're polluting anything, or they're doing it for their kids, they're not thinking they're polluting their kids or doing something bad, you know?
Because they don't have the education.
Absolutely.
That's like our community. Yeah. So we just like, let's go, we better go second with it. You know what I'm saying? And we don't realize.
And you know what, I think about this like not doing a real show, there was only a show in San Francisco. The people in the neighborhood think, oh, I'm Big Cat, I'm gonna do a show where the neighbors.
Some of them was something better than
The ones that look like this are straight, you know, they're just.
Yeah, I was saying for the Coliseum. You know, every 4th of July, the fireworks. I would just love to see as a for people to volunteer or sign on.
Yeah, I'm
And
kind of.
it donates more, so but yeah, they definitely for everybody else.
You know what, just like a bird fight space.
People would do it.
They get you when they do this, their little carnival fair and Dublin, you know, everybody go over there for that fair, it's big. Yeah, it's a presentation, mixes all that, they go right to the playground.
Maybe.
You sign, your sign, you know what I'm saying, your waiver, and you go participate.
It's an alternative.
Yeah, somebody.
Right down the street, first they start doing like this, get you out the way, next thing you know, they didn't spray it. I had it turned into an old lady.
So now,
they even did it, if you could believe this, on the Bay Bridge one morning.
I heard,
Yeah, this like work hard. Don't be all in the street.
Yeah.
No, well, on my way here today, dude was on the roof, driving with his foot. About 5 miles an hour. Down in 14. 5 miles an hour, because you couldn't drive too fast. I mean, you guys gotta tell me. You go to the roof, which is driving and I'm like,
but like, it do be more people here.
Anything. I seen some guys, they were doing the motorcycle thing around the lake. So then it was like a line, so then I guess there were some people that didn't have a motorcycle, so they said, I'll just sit on top of the car. You know, this is cool. I'm on a motorcycle.
Yeah. I don't know if it was the weather. I agree with you. Yeah, my friends, they said, but I did, but what I had was, I don't know what that was. Like, I turned into something. I thought I was gonna turn into a Ninja Turtle or something, because of the way I was feeling, like, I was like, yeah, we're gonna hire you.
Hi, folks, thank you. We're back from the break. Jay, do you wanna share out now?
Yep, go ahead. Wait till everybody get back though.
Where did these go?
Right there, he's coming in the other door. We missed somebody, what, boy, and.
Thank you for the food.
Yeah, thank you for the food. Good menu always.
It's a really good restaurant.
Yeah.
It's part of East Oakland as well.
Uh-huh.
It's called Las Marianas.
Oh, okay.
Really good.
Nice.
Hey, next time we need something to drink besides horchata.
Did you guys ever do Cocoa Breeze?
I've
That
heard
chicken
of it.
restaurant on High Street?
I looked at
I've
that.
heard
I
of
thought
it.
limited hours. I
Jay,
think maybe that's,
yes.
because I was trying to go there one time. I
Yeah.
think it was like limited, which, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen it
heard it was good.
online, yeah.
Cause I do like TikTok, I just go.
Oh, TikTok, yes.
That's why I go, like this is, Mexican spot right here on 98. And they burrito $7.50, and they have barbecue lamb.
Sorry, have we started back?
Good,
Okay.
and I seen that hot sauce.
Jay.
Yeah, I was like, right here, off 98 by the gas station, Butterfree.
Go ahead, Jay.
I look over at every time.
I'm sorry, I didn't know if we started back from break.
Sorry, I'm still talking about food.
Yeah, sound good too. Okay, so sorry about the mute issue. So yes, our group, we addressed the healthy housing. And just a quick takeaway, how it is important to have the established policies be actionable and active, like real time, like addressing the concerns like poor air quality, lack of health education, lack of community involvement, poor or older housing structures where we're addressing mold or lead, and so forth, poor ventilation systems. And so, we discussed these concerns and some possible solutions, like, for example, air filters or air purifiers being free, to the community, where, there's a issue, right? So why not have programs or grants that are able to address some of the poor air quality in the housing by giving out air purifiers or air filters. So we did address, I think that was it. We had some, addressing that there needs to be something like more inspections of rental housing. And so let me see, I think that was it. Our desired outcomes, mainly, we said a lot in our group, I'm sorry, but it would be nice to walk into a housing development where the air is just fresh. You're not walking in and holding your breath. But where kids, especially where kids are playing and gathering and communicating, I'm sorry, not communicating, but they do communicate, but where they work and play, live, work and play. So I'll just end it there. And thank you guys for the opportunity to share out.
Great job.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you all. Thank you. Excited to get to, the concerns back out to you guys and the statements back out to you guys soon. So I'm Carly. I'm gonna be facilitating this particular section about a timeline extension for the community emissions reduction plan for East Oakland. Next slide, please. Thank you. So here's a little timeline of where we are today, Q2 of 2024. So previously, the CSC voted to extend the SERP timeline to September 2024. Based on the progress we've made, we've updated the timeline to allow an additional 18 months to develop the SERP. Because we're proposing to extend the SERP's timeline by 18 months, we would like the CSC to take a formal vote to ensure community consensus for this time extension. The vote today will support extending the date when the CSC presents the final SERP to the Air District's Board of Directors for adoption from the current deadline of September 2024 until March 2026, which is Q1 of 2026. If the CSC agrees to the extension, we will notify CARB of the California Air Resources Board of the change to the timeline, since they oversee the process, and they will ultimately perform the final review and approval of the plan. So you go to the next slide, please. So here it's highlighting some certain milestones, some that are still pending, of course, as well. And yeah, some that are yet to be completed. In the past year and a half, the CSC has accomplished setting up the CSC governance, adopted the SERP vision and principles, and defined the SERP community boundary. The CSC has expressed priorities in setting goals for the SERP, although the goals are still pending and will be revisited soon. This information over the past year will help us work on milestones yet to be completed, including develop strategies grounded in the community's lived experiences and priorities, considering key health information, emissions inventory data, and compliance and enforcement data. These elements are integral in developing and adopting the SERP and guiding SERP implementation. So now I'll leave it for any questions so far.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would just like, it's really not a question, it's actually a statement to the CSC that, this will be our second vote to extend the timeline. So that shows that, we can have shorter agendas so that we can have more meaningful meetings because we know that we can extend timelines instead of acting like we have to specifically stick to a timeline. Now we know that we can extend this timeline to be better educated on the moves that we make. And I just wanted to make that statement to the CSC.
I have a question about, how was it determined that we need 18 months? And is there like a plan to make sure that we're done in the 18 months or?
I will pass it over to, I think Allison, right?
I heard my name being whispered. So so there were two comments there. The first one, how did we come up with 18 months? And the second one was, what are we going to do to make sure that we actually do this work in 18 months? And there's the same answer for both, which is that we base the 18 months based on what we've learned and observed so far. And the co-leads are committed to moving at the speed of the community. We take the direction from the CSC and the co-chairs on how fast to move. And what we've observed is that this timeline, based on what we've accomplished so far, would likely require another 18 months for us to continue to moving at the speed that folks feel comfortable at. And that's really important, that everybody feels comfortable and like they're on board with the plan. So the second question is, how do we know that we're going to stick to this timeline? See the answer to the first question, which is that we will continue to move at the speed of the CSC, and we will make adjustments as needed. And that also goes back to what Mr. Charles said. So happy to discuss further, and really appreciate all the time and effort people have put into providing your wisdom and your experience, your lived experience, and also allowing us to share, what we know from our experience as well. So speaking for the co-chairs there, for the co-leads there. So thank you. Pass it back to Carly.
I see there's a couple of more questions from Shamar and Gabrielle. Shamar, if you wanted to go.
Gabrielle can go first.
Okay, Gabrielle.
Okay. So I just I actually, that sounds fine. I'd rather do this right than like rush through it, but I do have questions about especially because I have been noticing recently funding kind of drying up everywhere, and how can we be sure that we will actually have the resources to execute this if we extend it?
I guess if I was to answer, I would ask you, Gabrielle, to explain more about funding drying up. The funding for developing the SERP is still available, and funding that the Air District has for our incentive programs and the other work we have is still available. The Air District is committed to implementing this plan. Can you tell me more?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to make sure that that there are no, I want to make sure that there are no risks to fund. I'm trying to figure out how to elaborate this because I don't know how the Air District, how that works for the Air District. I'm just coming out of the like mid-cycle budget that just happened, and also, noticing that in like nonprofit spaces, which is different from government, but that like EPA funding is going away. There's some state funding that has kind of disappeared, that people are pulling back, that states and governmental, federal government are pulling back on things. So yeah, I just want to know if this is baked into money that is already allocated, and if this will be baked in, or if there's any risk of revisions while we're in the middle of this that might leave us hanging without a CERT.
Absolutely no risk of losing funding for developing the SERP. And I might pass it to my colleagues at CARB. I believe Brian Moore is here. Brian, if you could provide any additional details.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. And I actually I dropped a chat in about it. So from the state perspective, funding for AB 617 was saved. It wasn't changed in any of the budget revisions for the 24-25 year. And something new the legislature did that they hadn't done in the past is they committed to funding the program at these stable levels for the next 5 years. And which is great, because usually we just got funding every year. So every year we were kind of seeing what the legislature would do. The only contingent on that 5-year plan is the program is funded through cap and trade funds through the greenhouse gas reduction program, which has been pretty stable, but that's just one caveat I want to put out there. Something weird happens with cap and trade, something might change. But I think considering the state budget shortfall, we feel really lucky, and the state seems to be prioritizing this program. So we were really happy coming out of this last cycle with what they allocated for us.
Okay, are there any other questions?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that last stuff where it is. Not sure if folks understand kind of how public financing and budgeting works. But I think my question is more to this process in general. Am I to understand that essentially these, small groups, which kind of feel fairly rushed and fragmented in that we're not actually all, even as a small committee, able to participate and give input on every piece of this? Am I to understand that what we've been doing in the last couple of meetings is what's going to go on externally to the committee members? It sounds like the co-chairs, the nonprofit partners, and the agency are really the ones that are doing the bulk of the effort developing the plan, like doing that strategy development. Am I to understand that, or is that something we're doing in the preceding months? And again, not just us, because there's only so much that any of us individual committee members can offer from our own personal experience, perspectives, priorities. But it's about a larger community, the hundreds of thousands of people who live around us who up until this point haven't necessarily been engaged in any meaningful way in looking at the problems or discussing solutions or anything really related to this process. So just trying to get a little bit of clarity on the roadmap and where realistically we as CSC members fit into all of that.
Just want to say real quick, we're running just a little short on time. If we can maybe keep the response short, but also of course answer Shamar's question.
I'll do my best. Shamara, I'll point you to the timeline, and this work we have been doing will inform the SERP. It is part of the SERP, and we are open to discussing with folks how they want to be involved in the next steps of the SERP development, and that includes strategy. So happy to discuss that further offline. I'll put my contact information in the chat so we can keep moving.
But just to be clear, as it stands now, the plan isn't really to engage deeply community in this community emissions reduction plan. It's just the dozen of us, and that's going to kind of influence, for the most part, what's going to happen next.
I would describe what we're doing as deeply engaging the community. And I realize as I say that folks may have different perspectives, but happy to discuss that further.
Also want to add that we are gonna like have a couple of workshops before the plan is fully like finally drafted. So yeah, and really hoping to like get some flyers out to libraries and a lot of like public places. CBE comms person has just went on leave again, so I'm gonna be taking that on. But I'm gonna move this forward and pass it to Michaela now for the vote.
Shamar as co-chair, and I think you've seen that we stand up for community, and we would not let this happen where whatever we doing adds up to nothing. That's not why we here.
That's not what you
And
voted
all of
us
this
in for.
input that we putting in is for strategy development. And so as your co-chair, you can be sure that we gonna make sure that our input is recognized.
We doing exactly what you voted us in to do.
Yeah, thanks, y'all. I was gonna say something similar, that yeah, all the work we've been doing has been like making the strategies, like even everything today. And I think soon we're gonna get kind of a compilation of where we are and the strategies that we have created. And yeah, I know other groups are doing kind of engagement around this. So yeah, I know folks have questions, but I do think we're going to move on to the vote. So yeah, as folks heard, we are asking to extend the timeline by 18 months. So yeah, I think I'm gonna call the vote as the youth co-chair. So if you're in favor and you would like to vote yes, in favor of extending the timeline by 18 months, please raise your hand virtually and in person.
Who's counting?
And
Michaela, can we do this a different way?
Say aye and nay.
Say aye.
Can everyone put their hands down? And let me just say for the record that there are 17 voting members present and 3 non-voting members present. And 3 voting members are absent. So please raise your hand only if you object to the co-leads and co-chairs sending a letter to CARB requesting a timeline extension. Please raise your hand only if you object.
Look at Massa.
She said that was too much.
I am not seeing any hands.
We'll reach out to the people who aren't here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seeing no objections, the vote passes with unanimous support.
Hey, celebrate, celebrate.
All right, thank you, folks. I think we can move on to the next section.
Next slide. Thank you. All right, so this next section is gonna be moderated by me, Harley. And first, we'll have Colleen Lang from the Port of Oakland, the Director of Environmental Programs and Planning, to give a little explanation of what we did on our tour back on June 8th with some CSC members who were able to go on the Oakland Airport tour. And then we'll have 3 CSC members, Andrea Pineda, Marika Goolsby, and Marina Munoz, to share out their experience on the tour. So I'll pass it to Colleen now.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Carly.
Can I sit here or do? Can I?
Don't be shy, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. Colleen Liang, again, part of Oakland. I again want to thank at the core, I thanked Carly and Anish, very instrumental, and Anna, for helping us coordinate this. I know there was a lot of logistics, but I appreciate your help and getting the members to sign up. And so I won't spend too much time because I know we're maybe short on time, but I just, maybe on the next slide, I just wanted to highlight what the locations that we did. So the objective of this tour was one, to show kind of behind the scenes of airport operations, but also highlight some of the environmental initiatives and programs that we're implementing at the airport. And so we visited, in theory, 13 sites. Some were just kind of a drive-by, but we showed the airport perimeter dike, or actually I should start in the beginning, but we looked at the fuel tanks that help support the airplanes, and highlighted that there is commitment by Southwest to bring in sustainable aviation fuel to the site. We showed the airport perimeter dike. We did sea level rise and flood improvements 2 years ago, and now we're moving forward with seismic standards and improvements, I should say. I know there was 2 questions that came from the tour about what are the seismic requirements for, because there's a pipeline that goes through the perimeter dike and then that feeds into SFO, the other airport across the bay. I don't have those answers, but I'm trying to get those from our engineering department about those pipeline standards, as well as the fuel tanks seismic requirements as well. So more to come on that. Then we showed the members some of the electrification that happens and occurs at the gate itself. So when an airplane comes in, they shut off their engine so they don't burn the jet fuel anymore, and they plug into the electric power, so that when the passengers deplane and when there's they're cleaning the airplane, they're using electricity. And then there's what we call preconditioned air, feeds into air conditioning as well. So again, allows the aircraft to shut off. And about 80% of the ground support equipment, which is those tug carts, baggage carts that take off the luggage, and then those vehicles that push the airplane back, 80% are electric. And we've provided the ground support equipment to charge those, what we call GSE, ground support equipment in. And then we showed, and then we did discuss about the proposed project coming. We are still in the environmental process. Just to give an update that we are still working on finalizing the EIR. We're responding to the comments. And right now it looks like maybe in fall is when we're going to release that final EIR, but I will come back and give everybody here an update on that, and we can have more conversations. As I know there's probably a lot of questions still on that, but that's just the environmental plan. That project is not approved, it's just environmental plan. And then we showed some examples of solar arrays that our tenants have. Oh, 1 minute, okay. And just, I guess I want to end on, I do know that there was requests for a second tour. We would like to move forward with that, so I'll work with Anish and Carly on setting that up.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Great, yeah, thank you. Just wanted to make sure to give the 3 CSC members their time to speak. And there might be time for questions in the end, but we want to make sure to get out on time. So if there are any questions, please put them in the chat so we can record them, or people in person will take note of it. So now I'll pass it to Andrea Pineda for the first share out, and I'll remind you guys, on timing. So you're good to go.
Okay. Hi everyone. Yeah, so the airport tour was good at showing how the airport is how do I say this? Going towards more sustainable practices, like electrification of things, clean energy. They also talked about their new sustainable fuel that's supposed to be cleaner for the environment. However, I did also have questions about how that impacts the community around the airport nearby in East Oakland. They also mentioned that there isn't much impact of the fuel and from the takeoff of the planes. And also, I believe I don't think they conducted tests on the workers, of the impacts on workers at the airport. So there are some unanswered questions, I think, left over from the tour, but it was great at showing the new developments at the airport. That's it from me.
Great, thank you, Andrea. I'll pass it to Marika.
Hi, everybody. I thank you for the recap of the tour that I just heard. That was refreshing. I just wanted to say that if I was not a part of this process and I was just a regular person from the community coming on the tour, I would think I would be impressed. The tour was impressive, just telling us about the beginnings of the airport and how it connects with San Francisco Airport and what they're doing to be more environmentally conscious and aware. But there, like the person before me said, there were some things missing. As far as air pollution goes, the mention of not having planes be idle, just burning fuel and switching over to electric, that was good to hear. But my specific question that didn't get answered was about how much pollution is being put out by these planes. And the question, I asked that question and I was told, well, because planes are so far up, it doesn't really affect people on the ground. But then I said, well, what about when planes are taking off and landing? You know, you don't just get in and then boom, you're instantly so many thousand feet up. And there was not a clear answer on that. So I felt like a lot of time was spent talking about things that weren't necessarily air pollution, except for planes being idle. And then there was a little bit of talk about efforts being made to keep the trucks coming in and out of the airport, limiting that. So I still want to know about specifically air pollution, and because that directly connects to adding more gates and having more planes flying overhead. Yeah, so that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Marika. I'll pass it to Marina for the last share out.
Marina? I ain't heard her talk all day. I ain't heard Marina all day, not hear Marina. Marina.
Are you on, Marina?
She would be
Something
using
wrong,
her
'cause I
interpreter.
hear her, yeah.
You'd be going to her interpreter anyway, right?
Yeah, but we were still here.
Interpreter will interpret if Marina speaks.
Okay.
Wait, what's
I will call out again on the Spanish channel for her. I've called out each time she's been named, but I will ask one more time because I could see her. Now I can't see.
It looks like she dropped.
Oh.
Yes, it looks like she's gone.
Yeah, probably got kicked off.
I have some of the notes actually, so from Marina, so I'm just gonna share out what she had to say. So she wanted to ask a question about if the port is prioritizing East Oakland community members to work at the airport. Also had questions about how the pollution is affecting workers on the ground, and that that wasn't mentioned too much, and how the port is helping the community, right? Because while it's polluting, there also needs to be like helping the community. And let's see, the last questions here are the questions for other CSC members. how do you see this in relation to writing strategies and solutions to the CERT? And then how would you like the CERT process to support what we've discussed here about the airport? So those are just questions to you all to take note of. Are there any questions? We do have a minute.
Let me say just two things. We recently updated our website like 2 weeks ago, and I noticed the links that we sent to the group are broken. So if you wanted to read like the human health risk assessment that we did or the studies in air quality, it doesn't work. So I need to, because I just checked it right before I left and I was like, oh no, what happened? But they're broken. So I'll resend them. Our IT people are working on it. In case you guys were trying to, it doesn't work, unfortunately. So I'll resend that information, and I could definitely follow up on the other questions that I didn't get to.
I got one question.
Mhm.
Why y'all putting San Francisco in the name of the Oakland airport?
For that, I'm just gonna say, I wasn't part of that,
That
but it was
money,
it's a location.
okay? You want money,
It's a
you gotta
established
change names.
location.
They need money. They
There's-
broke. They broke, they gonna relocate
It's
whatever
remain
they
finance.
need. Federal funding, they gonna make.
Man, we need our identity.
All right. We'll
And
move
then
to the-
also, and just one thing, I think it was Marika that mentioned about the mixing level height and the pollution off the runways. What I'm thinking, because we did try to explain it, but it is hard to kind of describe. Maybe, and I'll talk to the team, that maybe if we prepare a map, that maybe that'll show better of how those impacts are, or you
I
know,
think
as
so,
it
yeah,
might
the
be easier,
range
because
of like,
visually
yeah.
it may be easier to than saying explaining it. So
Absolutely.
I'll look at that, yeah. I think that
Okay.
might be easier.
Well, I mean, we got Marina's feedback, so she can enlighten us when she come back.
Yeah, we will have to move to the next section here to stay on time. So you can change the slide, please.
Nice report out on the.
Yeah, you guys did an excellent job, by the way. That's a good job.
Can we go to the next slide, please, for the Argent? Thank you, Allison. So here, we'll have Bill, Crottinger, president of Argent Materials and non-voting CSC member, to respond to some questions that CSC members had, and I'll keep time, but go ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
Carlita. Ay, ¿dónde está la interpretación?
Marina, baby.
Right now.
Can she close out or something at the
Yeah,
end, tell us? Cause Bill's already standing up.
You did say your remarks for the air.
Se me descargó mi teléfono, se me calentó bien feo, como no estoy ahí,
My
estoy lejos.
telephone got really hot and uncharged, and I couldn't present at that moment. I don't know if I can do it now.
Okay, if we can keep it really fast, Marina, like,
Puede ser.
minute. Go ahead.
Okay, I just want to give a brief, and sorry, my phone got disconnected and I didn't even have any connection. Talking about the airport, it was my first time that I participate like a member. And I was doubting many things because what we would do when I asked questions, there was a lot of questions that were up in the air because they didn't know how to answer. I also asked question, what are they giving to our community, right? And also, how many works are there at Oakland? Because it's important to be involved, that those jobs should be for us, because now that we're already contaminated, we also need to cure ourselves too. And also, I want to see how is the scene connected as far as strategy and solutions, and how would you like that process be for supporting what we talked about here? Thank you.
Thank you, Marina.
Some community members, y'all.
Pass it to Bill.
Good evening.
Hi, Bill.
Hello. Thanks everyone for the questions, for coming to our tour. I'm going to try to
speak through this,
So,
and if anybody, I'm speaking through this. Okay.
They can see it.
Can I?
Yeah.
And so if anybody.
Not yet, the camera that, yeah, now turn on.
Cameras underneath the.
Yeah.
That was the camera.
Okay, so number one, how many trucks arrive daily? 75 trucks a day on average. There are days that it's more than that. There are days that it's less than that. And these average about 9 miles, 7 to 10 miles. Number two, how many of our workers are from East Oakland? 15 East Oakland, 28 local, and that would be San Leandro, San Lorenzo, Hayward, Oakland. And I include returning family members just because it's a really important part of what we do.
Yeah, that's cool.
We always count them.
We have a request for you to speak it in slower.
Little slower. Okay, I apologize. How many emissions do we create? And I've got a long list here. I won't read this out. Essentially, we take large pieces of concrete and asphalt and we reduce those in size and we add water to control the dust. We have our processing operation, I think, very well monitored and dust free. We do have a pile in the center of the site, which you all saw on the tour, that has various different companies that come and drop material. We found that that's one of our remaining two issues, and the other one is the track out, which is why we also mentioned the clean interface. And I think, yeah, I mentioned, we recycle concrete and asphalt. That's all we take. We don't take dirt. We don't take contaminants. We don't take hazardous. Number 5 is talking about the clean interface. We have started phase 1. And really what that does is it allows trucks to drop their material off without backing into the dirt that we accept. That keeps the dirt from getting in the tires and that keeps the dirt from getting tracked out onto the street. Phase 1 is complete. Love to have anyone come and see that. We don't know anyone else on the planet that's doing what we're doing with a clean interface and a recycle yard. It's very unique. We have a couple more phases, but phase 1's done. We spent so far we were down for a few weeks and we spent about $350,000 just this year on that piece of work. Fugitive dust, and that's the dust that we don't control. I mean, obviously some of it's going up into the air. How much of it is leaving the property? We would hope that it's zero. We know that's not true, but we work at that very often daily to reduce that to zero. And I can tell you that we're committed to making that zero. We're not there now, but I think we lead the industry on how we control fugitive dust. I think we work at it pretty hard and we're pretty successful. I don't know that EPA has an acceptable level. I would say that air quality is the expert on what we should and shouldn't be doing. And I would ask them, I know you all have a pretty good relationship, ask them how we're doing compared to an industry standard. Purple air monitors. You know, I don't have a great answer for this other than to say, we went and bought a bunch of monitors, we installed them. I hired somebody to get them working, to start trying to graph the data, to get them to function. The truth of the matter is we really haven't been successful at getting them to operate in a way where we could share something that meant anything. We would show in the middle of the day during the week, nothing. And then Sunday afternoon, it would go off the chart. I don't know why. We're still trying to figure out how to get you all a representative readout. And we do plan on going live with that. It may not be purple air.
Okay.
And we wouldn't have mentioned it if we wanted to hide something. We're just not there yet. How much truck traffic is associated with the site? We get 1 or 2 vendors. Some days we don't get any. Some days we might get 3. And then we have, of course, our employee vehicles, which are all gasoline. So,
Thank you. Thank you so much.
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bill. And just to let everyone know, we will send out the questions along with the answers to these questions in a post-CSC email for this meeting. And I will pass it to one of the co-chairs, Mr. Charles, for closeout.
So, could we go to Oh, we right here?
Yeah.
Okay, so, we want everybody to fill out their surveys on how they went, feel like the meeting went. Did you learn something today? What could we have done better? How can we improve our education aspect for our community members? And our next CSC meeting will be held on Thursday, September 12th, 2024. And do we have any, announcements in-house right here?
We actually do, there is no CSC meeting for August.
August, yes.
Because we wanna say happy birthday to Charles, and we
Yes,
want you guys to
yes.
get a break. You know, we do this all year round, so it's nice to have a break, so you guys will get a break for August, hallelujah. And, you know, it'll be September 12th, our next meeting, which means it'll be what, 2 years since we've been together? So we all been in a CSC relationship for 2 years, and it has been an extraordinary adventure to be around all you guys. So especially I want to say happy birthday to Charles and any of our Leos out there. Hey,
That's right.
Cancers too. But this has been an extraordinary adventure. We are creating something from the ground up, and I'm very proud that we've stuck it out this far. So
Yes.
this has been a wonderful experience, and I'm happy to be standing arm in arm and side by each and every one of you guys, so.
Yes, and like you said, it's gonna be 2 years, y'all, that we've been together doing this work. And I think that now we gaining our momentum, and let's keep it going, and let's add some economic development to this. See you guys next week. I mean,
And hopefully in person, because it's 2 years, hopefully you guys
Yeah,
will
let's
come in
see some-
person. Let's meet and greet in person. Let's make that a goal.
Wow, I think this is the first time I've been a part of this, that we did it.
Thanks, y'all. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.